If you've been hit by betrayal, then I'm here to tell you you're not alone. I'm here to tell you that you can even rise up even stronger before it all happened. So if you really want to rise up stronger, join us today in our conversation in Let's Get Real. Hi, my name is Glenda Kroll, and I am one of your hosts today, as well as.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Harvick, and always glad to be here on Wednesdays. And I think Glenda would agree that this is a subject very close to our hearts. So I think this is going to be a very, very interesting conversation. And one thing I do know for sure, there's a lot of people out there that need to hear this. So our guest today is a native Canadian, which I know makes Glenda very happy. She moved to Texas in the early 90s, where her life centered on her family. She is a mother of six. Whoo, yeah, I can barely handle my two, and a grandmother of four. After discovering her husband's betrayal, she had to rebuild her whole life. And I am one to tell you, it can be done, but it's not always easy. She is an author of Deceptive Liaisons, and she is a post betrayal transformational coach. So let's welcome Samantha Bailey to our stage today.
Hello, Samantha, and welcome to Let's Get Real.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm thrilled. And like Nicole already said, this is something very close to our hearts because this has happened to both of us. And there's great messages that we need to tell people, especially those that it's just recently happened to, because we all know the feelings of what happens. It's like being hit by a bus when you first find out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's start first of all by you talking about, tell us a bit about your story, and then we'll just go through because I know we have so much to talk about.
Yeah, there's not enough time, but we'll get it all in and make sure that we offer hope for healing. So, about 5 years ago, I was living in Hawaii, loving paradise, and pretty much content and happy with life. Until one day I found out that my husband was having what I thought was initially one affair, but over a year's time, trickled truth at 8 different D-days, I found out that he was having multiple affairs with sugar babies, escorts, prostitutes, and it was like over a dozen in a 2-year period. And I also found out that he spent almost our entire retirement savings, along with refinancing our mortgage, unbeknownst to me, and using the equity to pay for luxury trips, designer shopping sprees, sex, 5-star hotels, fine dining, you name it. And it really put me in a very dark and bad place for 3 years. And I felt very alone. I didn't know where to go. I had to Google things because I didn't know what betrayal trauma was or what D-Day. I thought D-Day was the Battle of Normandy. I didn't know D-Day was like when you find out. And for 3 years, it affected me physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, until I started my healing journey. And looking back, I realized that there were a lot of things that I did wrong that delayed. Like 3 years is a long time to be in a pit. And I wanted to share with others so they didn't follow in my footsteps and do the things wrong that I did wrong. So that's how it came upon writing my book. One of the things I did do right was journaling because I just had to get my emotions out. And I realized that journaling, I could take what I had written down and turn them into chapters. And a lot of the things that I journaled, I'd forgotten about because my head was in such a big fog.
Yeah.
And when it all came together, it kind of reads like a suspense novel, but it also has multiple resources to offer hope for healing.
And that's really the key to it all, because when it initially takes over in your life, it's just like it is a death. It's a death of a relationship. It's a death of your life at that point in time, and you couldn't be in a darker place than it had somebody else actually physically died. And what we do to ourselves because of it. So, we go through and you know, maybe we have the fact of, is it possible? Was it true that it happened? You go through everybody goes through their own different segments of it, whether, we look at ourselves and we blame ourselves and so forth. Did you go through these, um, monumental periods? Huh?
Absolutely. And I questioned, like, how could this happen? There were no signs, no red flags, nothing. And for 3 years, when I was in my dark place, I believed that there were no signs. But once I started my healing journey, I realized that there were multiple signs. But when you trust someone completely, you take them at their word. So there was no suspecting anything because I trusted what he said to be true. But yeah, it affected me. My self-esteem, just everything was just dark.
Oh, absolutely. I can remember mine well. And you're just, like you said, trust. I trusted, which, in looking back, I was like you, there were plenty of signs. How did you find out? What were your steps to finding out?
Yeah, great question. So it was my birthday morning, about 1 o'clock in the morning, and for some reason I couldn't sleep. So I went downstairs to watch TV or, play a game on my phone or just something mindless to do. And a thought popped into my head, check his email.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I've never been a snoop. I've never needed to, but I thought, well, I found myself Googling Yahoo email and putting in his email address. And then I'm like, well, I don't know his password, but I guessed it first try and I was in. So I'm
Wow.
scrolling through and everything looked really normal at first, email exchanges between, myself and him and, friends and whatnot. But then I clicked archive, and the first email was he was in Phoenix the week before on a business trip. So, yeah, no problem. And then I scrolled, and the next one was for a hotel reservation the next night, the day after my birthday, for two, queen bed right in Hawaii. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I kind of went, no. And right away, I'm like denying, oh, it's probably a surprise for my birthday. But then I'm like, he had already asked me a few days ahead of time if he could go for drinks with, a coworker after work. So I'm like, maybe he's in on it. And I was just trying to rational,
Yeah.
but back of my mind and my heart, I was like, this isn't good. So I decided I was going to go to the hotel the next night and see what he was up to. So I got ready for work and I, got him coffee and he's like, thanks, babe. And I'm like, you're welcome. And he's like, oh, is anything wrong? I said, no, a little pause. And I said, are you having an affair on me? And immediately he looked in my eyes directly and said, I would never do that. I love you way too much. How could you even ask me that?
Wow.
Well,
So,
you must have one book out there.
Oh, yeah. What to say for cheating dummies?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, should be a book for that too. So I went to work and I got there and there was like balloons, streamers, gifts all around my desk. And I'm like, I don't feel like celebrating. I don't feel good. Like something's not quite normal here. And I'm like, trying to still be calm and cool. And I looked at the email again and the one that I thought was his business trip the week before, I did a double take. It was for a beachfront resort in Hawaii.
Wow.
Under my nose. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm trying to, not let the because once I started crying, I knew that was it. A coworker came in and she noticed that I looked a little bit off, and she says, "Is everything okay?" And bingo. I just started weeping, and I'm like, my husband's having an affair, and I got to go home, and she couldn't believe it because he just portrayed himself as a model citizen. I thought he was, awesome, great husband. He sends you flowers to work. I'm like, yeah. I don't remember the drive home. I just remember sitting in the backyard on the lanai, staring at nothing, just kind of like sitting there, and my eyes kind of spinning. And the phone rang a couple of times. I let it go to voice, and then the third time I answered it was my husband. And he said, "I called you at work and you weren't there. Is everything okay?" Well, yeah, I'm not good. I couldn't sleep last night. And I just decided to take the day off, And he said, "Are you sure?" I'm like, one more opportunity to tell the truth. So I said, "Are you having an affair on me?" And he said immediately, almost with a little bit of, it's like, "How could you even ask me that? Never. I love you. Why? Where are you getting this from?" And then I lost it. I just said, "You know what? I know you were on a business trip last week. You were in Conneaut Beachfront Resort with her, and you have a hotel reservation tomorrow with her." And his response was nothing, dead silence. So that confirmed, what I uncovered was true. And then it was a pause. It seemed like an eternity, maybe 5 seconds, if that. But in my head, it was like you're going slow motion. And I started yelling at, "Who is she? How long have you known her? Where did you meet? And how could you? And end it now." Like, I just spurting out everything. And that's how I covered the first, what I thought was one affair.
Yeah, it shows in all different ways. First of all, I don't know of a, and I'm not going to say of a man, because affairs happen on both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to put it out there, and it's not about bashing man. It has nothing to do. There's people in relationships that cheat on each other, male or one side or the other side. It
Yeah.
happens at all times.
Yeah.
For me, it was my second relationship that it happened to, and the first time I got raked over by abnormally amount of being dragged in and out of court. At that point, my children were young, so I was, being there as a mama bear, looking after, making sure my kids are okay. And there was a lot of stuff that, they weren't. And I got raked over with $200,000 worth of legal bills. And I had to get myself out of debt. And I somehow, by the good grace of somebody upstairs, something watched down on me and led me to some incredible things. The second time in a different relationship, when I had somebody else, I knew that I wasn't going to tell my ex at that point when I found out, because it was, people change when you start to talk about money. When you go into a divorce and you start bringing up the source of money, all of a sudden that very sweet individual all of a sudden starts to become a lion. Everything begins to change. And for that is when I decided that I was going to shove my emotions down and get my life in order, my new life, so that when everything was ready, that's when I'll tell them. And that's what I set out to do. It took me 9 months to do all of that and to sell a house and so on. But the most important thing is I knew what I wanted. I had my head focused on it. And I'm not saying it's easy, because what we tend to do in our own selves is the emotions are rolling. So how did you deal with your emotions? Because We go through the ups and then the downs, and the downs are like they're below sea level. So, right? So how did you go through those ups and downs, and then how? Let's say we can say to somebody who might be just finding out now that this is happening, or someone who's just started this incredible hard journey. What maybe give us some pointers of what they can do.
Yeah, great question. It was so difficult, and it was like I wanted to feel physical pain because the emotional pain was so strong. So I kind of Googled where would be the most painful place to get a tattoo. So I booked a tattoo appointment, and I had it put online. It's a heart with a little piece of the heart missing, like a hole in my heart, and it says, "This too shall pass." Now, at the time I wasn't thinking that, but I'm like, please, I want to get beyond this, because I just wanted to feel that physical pain. It didn't help. So I wouldn't recommend it unless you really want to get a tattoo. But I that was one of the things that I did. Another thing was I wrote everything down, like my swear words. Like I didn't confront him in a way that was angry because I wanted to keep the peace. I wanted to make it work. So everything, all my anger and frustration was written down on paper. And also, I had dealt with a lot of depression and anxiety, and I did a lot of the tapping. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it
Yeah.
helps anxiety, and you talk about what you're feeling, and yeah, I'm feeling this now, but it's not going to be forever. And there are different places that you can tap to help that. So I did that a lot, and I I don't know if there's anything other than that. I saw a therapist right away, which is one of the things I recommend. Um, if you can find someone who specializes in betrayal, that's the key. A couple of therapists that I went to and shared my story, they couldn't believe it. They were shocked. I'm like, no, I don't want my therapist to be shocked. I want them to help me. But they didn't really fit for me. So once I found a really good therapist in that field who had actually experienced betrayal herself, it was more relatable, and understanding, that she suggested and recommended were helpful for me. Some that I recommend you do not do is drink alcohol, because
Mhm.
alcohol is a depressant, and you already have this gaping wound. You don't want to pour salt in it and make it worse. So, the best thing to do is to avoid that. And cannabis is the same thing. It's like it might offer temporary relief, but all it do is delay your healing. And in order to heal, you have to go through stages. They might be dark places, but you have to walk through them in order to get to the light.
And the whole idea, let's talk to our audience, is you've got to first of all feel it. You got to like you cannot go through something as huge as this and not feel it. So I think one of the most important aspects of this is to actually feel what you're going through, so that get mad, get angry, swear, curse, do whatever you do in an area, not necessarily directing at your other partner, and like it's there's always a place and things. Use your friends if you need to, because the whole idea is either if do what I did by not letting him know and get your ducks in order so that you have a little bit of something above them, or what you had done to go directly at them. The whole idea is keeping the lines opened so that If you can keep the lines open, then you can figure out what you got to do. Because, in your case, you had children also at that time. Were you're not your children, young children?
Yeah, but they were all adults. So, yeah.
But what happens is kids tend to, they feel sorry for the underdog. It's what usually happens. Like, they feel, and, I learned it through my first time of you never attack, even no matter if your kids are adults or if your kids are young, you never attack the other person in front of them. You never allow them to have to be, because what's going to end up happening is they're going to sit there and they're going to protect the person that you might be knocking down.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, my kids did not want to have anything to do with them when they found me very angry. Reminded that, your dad was always and is a great father, was there for you for every game, every doctor's appointment, always like making sure his time was with them. And I actually bridged that gap back because I didn't want them to have to make a choice. It was a bit of a trauma for them as well to have this unit, broken. And I reminded him that, he was there in good and bad. And now this is a bad for him and he needs you. So it's really important not to make them choose sides.
That's right. And it's really hard to do when you're going through it, right? Like every part of you wants to just tear the other person apart because you have been hurt. But we have to learn that I believe in everything of life of taking the higher road.
Yeah, agree.
And how did you find, so you went and you got some help.
Yes.
And how did you go through your forgiveness? What was some of the key points that allowed you to be able to heal?
Oh, wow. There were a lot of different things that I did for forgiveness. Because I had to not only forgive him, but I needed to, I first forgave him, which for some reason and oddly was easy. I felt kind of sorry for him because none of these women would have been with him had he not been paying them. And I thought, wow, that's not love or unconditional love and intimacy and connection. That's just kind of cheap. And I needed to forgive the affair partners because I had this weight that I was carrying around because I was so, especially the ones who knew he was married. I had a very bad resentment towards them. And I actually did a balloon ceremony, and I had 15 balloons, helium balloons. I didn't release them because I thought, airplanes, and I didn't want to release them. But I put their names on each balloon, and I had them specifically colored. They were red with white string, and it kind of represented the helium was their soul, and the white represented that God loves them too, and He can forgive them, and so should I, and they can be wiped clean, especially the ones that lie. So like, and I would pray forgiveness for myself, and then I took some scissors. This felt a little, and popped the balloon, and, so that their soul could go away from me, not be attached to me. And I did that 15 different times. And I was dealing with incredible anxiety that felt like somebody was choking me. And I had a hard time almost speaking at times. And after that ceremony, my anxiety went away. It was like not a physical, but I'm like, wait, I'm not no one's choking me anymore. So it's such a good release to do that. And there were other things that I did that I wouldn't recommend, that I don't know if it was his idea or my idea. Um, the hotels where he had, met each one of his affair partners, and go into the lobby and pray the forgiveness there. Prayer. I thought it would be maybe, 1 or 2,000 Waikiki, 25 different hotels. Took 3 days to walk each hotel and do the forgiveness prayer. It did not help me emotionally. It just spiraled me down. And then he decided to add and take me to all the parking lots and parking garages.
Oh my gosh. That
And
this
park,
is what he suggested for you?
Hmm?
This is what he suggested for you to do?
See,
Yeah.
and that's what I was going to ask. Why is he with you?
I'm divorced. Yeah.
No, but I mean, during this ceremony, the one who did it, why did he want to come with you and he suggest all these things?
Because he wanted to say the forgiveness prayer as well. Like,
For him, for them, was he forgiving them for what he did?
he was trying to forgive himself.
Okay, that throws me a little bit, just
Yeah,
because.
me too.
Oh.
But the thing is, it's like, I guess that kudos to you in some respects, but I'm going to be real here. Like, sorry, but I'm
Just
just,
say it, Glenda, because I'm thinking it.
what the fuck did
hell?
you allow him to have that part in your life? Like, let's get real. Like, he's
Yeah.
already spread his vermin on you, and you allow him to continue on to take hold of you. Like, mine was nowhere around me, and even when I did allow it, it was like, no way. It was like, you're not coming even near me or touching me or having anything to do. It grossed me out.
Yeah, that was
With
how
all
I
these
was.
other women, no
Mm-mm.
way, honey bunch.
And
Yeah.
what I'm curious about, Samantha, did he think by doing this you would stay with him?
I don't know what he was thinking, because he was giving me TMI, like too much information, things that I already knew enough. I didn't need to know the little details. I didn't need to go into the lobby of each hotel. It was like, it was enough.
That's like torturing you.
It was, and
Throwing it in your
added
face.
more. It didn't heal me. It added more to my
Trauma.
No
downward
kidding.
spiral.
Trauma.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he's giving you more trauma. So he just took, it's like he took advantage of, and you
Mm-hmm.
didn't have your own self-worth and couldn't, push that away. And he took advantage of that.
Yeah, and he showed me all of them. Like, they were beautiful women, ages 19 to 29, and he's in his 60s.
Oh my God, that's insane. I've never. I'm appalled by that behavior. That's so narcissistic and arrogant.
Yeah,
Huge. Yeah.
and it was like he was bragging about it. Like,
Absolutely, that's what he was doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't have shown you those pictures or made you walk into those hotels.
right.
Oh my gosh.
How did you then, from feeling like, I don't know, am I putting words in your mouth? Are you feeling like you're being stepped all over?
I had so many intrusive thoughts and images, and there were days where I couldn't even get out of bed.
Sure.
I believe that.
Chronic fatigue. I went from working out regularly to doing like nothing. It took energy just to get up and, go to the restroom. I didn't even care about my own hygiene. If I got in the shower once a week, I didn't even care. I didn't care about myself. I just was so in such a bad place. I didn't even recognize myself in the mirror, because I've always taken, care on, how I look, and cleanliness and everything like that, I got to where I kind of understood, like when I watch the shows like Hoarders on TV, they've usually experienced some kind of trauma. And I remember being in bed one day and like, I could be a hoarder and looking around at everything that I just left and didn't care. And I'm so glad I'm not there anymore.
Good.
But I kind of I understood how they get to that place if they don't start healing.
So, what was the major thing that snapped you out of it? Because I know how that going into that that tube that just keeps on going down. There had to have been something that got you to sort of like wake up. What was it?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I came upon a website and I read a bunch of self-help books and things that didn't really, I couldn't relate to them. And so this website was, you could take a quiz to see where you were in your stage or whatever. And it was 1 to 5, 1 being you've just found out you're really in not a good place. 5 is you're great and you're on your healing path and life is good. So I took the quiz and after 3 years, I'd accepted everything. I realized that this was it. This was my life, and I've lived my best life. So I'm just gonna kind of go on one day at a time. But I had no joy, no happiness whatsoever. My quiz came back with a number 3. And how I explain it is like, yeah, I've accepted it, but I'm carrying around this ball and chain. I can go from one place to another, but everything's really heavy. And
Yeah.
I'm tired all the time because I'm carrying this weight around. And when I realized that, oh, that I can move from here, like I can get out of this, I signed up for every course that um, website offered, and everything was relatable because all of them had experienced betrayal trauma in their own life. And it's like they get me. They understand what I've been through, and I read things and I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly it. And it was just so relatable. And I'm not saying that this is the perfect, because everyone's healing journey is different and there's not a linear line. That's why it's good to have so many different options and realize that, well, what worked for me might not work for you, but this might work for you. And also, there's no timeline on healing either. I delayed my healing because of some of the things that I did just from lack of knowledge. But there's no timeline for grief.
No.
True.
And that's why it's so important right now for you to be talking about this so that people that are going through this, they need to understand that they're not alone, that, this is happening far too often in life. And on top of it, their journey to come back, to heal, to get stronger. There's nobody says that it's, in a week and you should be up and going and moving. That's just not how it works. But the most important thing, I believe, is the message is staying down and not doing anything, sitting in that well and reliving it constantly. I think that's where the worst part comes, because it's becoming the victim of that, and it's really not a healthy spot. And the whole idea is to come out of victimhood, because the greatest revenge is your own success.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm curious, Samantha, you reconciled maybe the cheating or whatever he had you do, but how do you reconcile someone blowing through your whole life savings and taking seconds out on the house? Or how that's a lot. Everything's a lot. And then you've had it compounded and compounded and compounded. How did you reconcile that?
Yeah, that was hard because we had agreed that my income was going to go all to retirement. And excuse me, we had built up a 401k, and he used that as well. And I had to start from ground zero. And one of the things, and he had also racked up $70,000 in credit card debt using credit cards I didn't know he had, to kind of hide, what he was doing. And so I refused to, I took over the finances, and I refused to pay the credit cards that he used for his shenanigans. And, started putting things aside. And not that I was planning on leaving, but I was planning, if I leave, I'm going to make sure this is in place, that's in place, my credit is not affected, and really wanted to prepare myself just in case.
So how long did you stay with him after you found out all this?
Great question. So he was great, did everything that he should do for 3 years. But I was babysitting him. I had an app. I could see wherever he was. Whenever he was out with someone, he'd send me a picture of who he was with. But every time I looked and he wasn't where I thought he should be, it creates more anxiety.
Sure.
It was just getting to the point of tired of hanging on to that control. So I told him one day that I'm deleting this app. You don't have to, worry about me, following you, asking you questions. It's just too much for me. And here's my debit card. You can go ahead and change your password. I'm going to keep paying the bills and everything, but I'm going to separate your money and my money, and I'm going to open my own account. What he didn't do was change the account to a single account. So he changed the password, but I still had access. And within a week, he had signed up for, made a profile on these sleazy dating sites. And a week before our 20th anniversary, he met up with a 27-year-old at a hotel, paid her $300 cash for sex. And jump ahead, on our 20th anniversary, I served him with divorce papers. That was it.
Wow.
Not going to put up with it. So to me, character is how you behave when no one's watching.
Sure.
It's easy to be on your best behavior if you're constantly being monitored. But how are you going to behave when you're not? And, his true colors shined right through.
So how long was it by the time you found out to the time you divorced that you maintained that relationship? It was years?
3 years. Yeah. And that's when my healing journey started too. And I realized that he was one of my biggest triggers, because every time I saw him with all these other women
Oh,
that
yeah.
in my and I'd seen. And I didn't even want to be I'd always cover up around him, because my self-esteem and everything was just shot.
But you know what? He did that to you in a way that's just cruel.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, oh goodness. And I'm curious, where is he now? Does he know you're doing interviews? Does he know you wrote the book?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. I'm just, a lot of times, and when my ex-husband and I divorced and I found out all this, he ran around behind my back and tried to scurry and make sure everything was covered up. What she says, oh, that's not true. This isn't, that's not me. I didn't, I wouldn't. And that's what they're very, very good at is they lie. So they lie about that as well. Did you find any of that in your relationship?
Well, no, not really, but he lives in Denver now and has a whole new group of friends. He married 6 months after my divorce to a very young Asian, and that was his woman of choice. Usually, beautiful Asian or darker skin Egyptian, like all dark hair, total opposite of me. Very
Huh.
petite, dark hair. I'm 5'10", blonde. So he married his fantasy, I guess, so to speak. I don't know if she knows anything. I don't. Not that I don't care. I don't care because
Good.
it's like whatever, I'm not worried about what he does in his life. But when I left, I drove by myself. I filled up a 15-foot U-Haul trailer with just what I needed, towing my car, and I bought a man, a blow-up man, and I sat him in the passenger seat because I didn't want anyone thinking I was driving by myself.
Sure.
15-hour drive, and I rocked him in a blanket and a baseball cap, and his head was against the window with a pillow so people would think that I was not alone. And you can't blow him up all the way or he's too stiff. You gotta.
I wouldn't know. I don't have a blow up doll yet. But you never know. I don't rule anything.
I've never tried the blow up doll thing, but a lot of people recommend it. So what can I say?
I know, right?
Blow up man, not a blow up doll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. And so you drove from where to where with the man?
Pardon?
You drove from where to where? Did you have like a long way where you were going?
Yeah, from Denver all the way to Dallas. It was.
Oh, okay. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Especially Texas.
I left him in the truck for the night. I didn't carry him in with me.
That could have caused more rumors, right?
Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, at least we got a laugh in over this.
So you have a book now that you've written, and what is the name of the book again?
It's called Deceptive Liaisons.
Okay, and where can people find that book?
So right now, it'll be released in December, but if you go to my website and put in your name and address, you'll be the first and only group that can pre-purchase it 2 weeks before it hits the shelves. And 100% of the profits from the pre-sales go to feedingamerica.org.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? So from such a lousy thing, you have created such a beautiful.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
And tell our audience too, what's it like to finally be free of that and be on that healing journey and learning to love yourself and learning techniques to calm yourself down?
It's like it's a better life than I ever imagined. Like I wake up happy.
Isn't that nice?
I always start my morning and my day with gratitude because I'm so grateful. And there was a time that I was like, why did this happen to me? Like everything was negative because I was in this victim mentality. But when you break free from that, you're no longer just surviving, you're thriving and loving life. And it's like step out of the darkness and into the light, because that darkness is not fun. Not at all.
No. Beautiful. And now, do you have love in your life?
Well, my kids and my grandkids. And I recently met someone, but it's taking it very, very slow. So yeah.
I'm glad to see that there's so much light around you.
Yeah, and I have good how do you say? I have a good BS radar now.
Isn't that amazing how that kicks in when we've been like so blindsided and you're like, I'm never going to have that happen again. So your spidey senses kick in, don't they?
Yeah, but it's important not to jump into a relationship, especially if you haven't gone through the healing. I had to get to the place where I was okay and happy with being on my own and being by myself and actually enjoying times alone, not feeling lonely, just enjoying those times and cherishing them. But if you jump into something too quickly, you're likely to make the same mistake.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
agree.
I I believe that it's really good to allow your body, your mind, and your whole soul to get through it all and then rebuild. It's like you got to knock down the building and then rebuild yourself back up again. It's
Absolutely. And
understanding.
and you're not the same person anymore after something like that happens.
No,
You're not who you were. And
right.
so who am I kicks in.
And it's not, it's like that's just part of my story. That's not my whole story or who I am. And I have just a renewed purpose, and to live life with a purpose is a beautiful thing. And my purpose is to offer hope for healing.
Wonderful.
I think this is absolutely beautiful, and I just totally love it. And I give you, kudos to what you have been through, the journey that you took, which was very hard. But most importantly, that you had the wisdom within yourself, knowing that you could be more than what was happening to you. And we have to learn, right? That just because he does something, like your partner does something that knocks you down, you don't have to stay there, that you can get through it.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it happens more often than not, because I know for myself, I was very embarrassed to talk about it at first and ashamed. What could I have done different? What did I do? Wasn't I enough? And it that's not the problem. It wouldn't matter if we were a gorgeous actress, with a body that wouldn't stop. There's something, it's them. It's all about them. And when I understood that, that was probably my greatest help. Was it's even though, well, your mom didn't give me enough attention. Your mom didn't do this. Your mom didn't do that. They can say anything they want to justify it, but it is about them, not us.
Yeah, yeah. And thankfully, my ex never blamed me. He would say, "You're the greatest thing that ever happened to me," but he blamed a lot of childhood trauma on it. But one of the things I like to share is, you're not responsible for someone else's choices,
True.
so it's not your fault. What they choose to do is their responsibility, not yours.
Very well said.
Absolutely. Oh, goodness. So when your book comes out and some people recognize the name and know the circumstances, are you okay with that now? Because that is your story.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I have a pen name, my author name, and
Oh, okay.
I never mention my ex's name in the book. I just refer to him as my husband.
Okay.
No name ever mentioned. So, but I mean, I'm sure he'd recognize, because this is kind of a unique story.
Very.
Yeah, yeah.
And your children. Your children, you said, were adults.
Yep.
How did you bring your children through this? And do your children have a relationship with their father now?
Yes, they do. They have a really good relationship, which I always encourage. It's a little bit harder now because he doesn't live close by. But, they FaceTime, they talk. Some of them have gone and visited him a few times. And there was another part to the question. I think I missed it. The children. He actually, I made him share with the children what had happened. I didn't want to, if, and I stayed out of the room. If they had questions, they could ask without feeling like they were going to hurt me by being there. So he shared with them. And yeah, some of them were pretty upset with him. And, it took a while to get over, not over it, but to understand what had happened, because when you look at your dad as your hero,
Uh-huh.
it broke their hearts.
Yeah.
Sure.
And but they're all in a really good place right now. So
Nice.
yeah.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that. And it's really true that when you're in the, when you're in through what's going on, the turmoil of it all, it's really hard to see this. But, children need their parents no matter what the parents do, unless, unfortunately, if a child or an adult is being abused in any way, then it's a different story. But when one of the adults decides to make that type of a choice, they need to stand up to it. So I'm really, great to hear that your kids have the relationship, because, otherwise the children at the end of the day are the ones who end up getting hurt, don't they?
Yeah, and it hurt them. And why hurt them more?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So out of all your lessons that you have learned, what would be one major takeaway that you would like to share to somebody who is going through this now, and life is very confusing, because we all know how confused we get with.
Yeah. Just to know that they're not alone. There is help out there. In fact, I have on my website multiple resources for help that they can click on, and if they don't like one, go to the next and read. Stay away from alcohol and cannabis. Feel what you need to feel, because you're not going to heal if you don't feel. And self-care, take care of yourself in a way that, you need to love yourself. You can't worry about what anyone else thinks. You can talk to a trusted friend who's not going to offer any judgment. I had a friend that came over and just hugged me and was there for the day, didn't say anything. She just was there. And make sure that you don't post any of your personal information on social media as far as what you're going through, because it's no one else's business. There are wonderful, wonderful groups on Facebook that you can join that are private, that you can voice what's going on with you there, and you're going to get help in return from that too. So that's what I'd recommend.
Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you very much for joining us today and coming on and being so transparent, because it is probably one of the most difficult subjects to really be honest about. And it's from Nicole and I both know and understand from where you've come. And it's a long journey, but to see you now as you are shining light and looking beautiful, it's a wonderful to know that you've come around from all that darkness, and for that I admire, and I say thank you very much for
Yeah,
sharing light with us today.
thank you so much as well.
And we never leave a session without our dear Nicole, who comes back and tells us what her synopsis is of today.
And as I sit here and listen to all three of us as we talk and speak, because we've all been through it, and the biggest takeaway is take it back to you. If your husband, your ex-husband, a boyfriend, whoever is doing that to you, it is never about you. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you'll be. And you're going to see it differently. You're going to look at it with different eyes and understand that you don't have to take the burden on anymore. You can release it. You can get out of victim mentality. And self-care is so important at this time, even if it's just sitting alone quietly. It's a sucker punch to the gut. I mean, it is very, very painful, and I realize that. But for me, as I reflect back and look at where I am now, I look at it as it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And that's the reason I can sit here and talk about it, or I can sit here and help other women walk through it. It is a path that I have walked from beginning to end, and it's not easy, but with kindness to yourself, gratitude, like Samantha mentioned, and Glenda's very big on gratitude also, you can and will get through this as well.
Awesome. Agree. Love it.
Thank you.
So if anybody is watching this and you're going through it, there's 3 people here that you can reach out to and speak with. And there's always below our videos, our contact information, which any of this. But just remember that you're not alone, that whatever has happened, it's not happening to you, just like Nicole's mentioned. This will happen for you, that there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel, because we've all have seen it. And most importantly, never forget how worthy you are, because when we stop realizing our own self-worth, that's when the whole thing is over. So just remember about how important it is to love yourself, to take care of yourself, and to make sure that you're at the top of the pole. Because remember, it all starts and ends with you. Thank you so much for sharing this very important subject matter today. And thank you for shining so bright after all of this darkness. Samantha, it was a pleasure. Thank you.